I'm David Levi Strauss, chair of the MFA program in Art Criticism and Writing here at the School of Visual Arts. I first heard about George Gittoes from my friend, the painter Leon Golub, in 2004. I was in Leon's studio talking about the just released images from Abu Ghraib prison. And he said he had a film made by an Australian artist and filmmaker named George Gittoes, and that he wanted me to see it. So we sat down in the studio and watched it, and I thought it was just extraordinary. The film was called Soundtrack to War, and it consists of George wandering around Iraq with a camera talking to U.S. soldiers. And the first question he'd ask was, "What are you listening to?" And it turned out that everybody was listening to something and specific and had a deep commitment to it. So after they talked about the music and what they were listening to and what they were making, they talked about everything else, and including a lot of things that you'll never hear from the U.S. government or from the U.S. news media. So I was hooked. And then a few years later, Ronald Feldman introduced me to George, and we've been in touch ever since. Fast forward to today, George is just back from Afghanistan and Pakistan, where he's been making films over the past decade or two. Two extraordinary films that the Taliban in Pakistan don't like at all. We're going to show you excerpts from a couple of them, including from his new film, Love City. You'll be the first ever to see this tonight. George told me last night that he is right now doing the most important work of his life, and I believe him. I've come to believe what George says, but it took a little while for this credibility to set in, because he says a lot of outrageous things. He's been a witness to some of the most horrific and outrageous things that have happened in the world over the last 30 years. And he's witnessed and responded to these things always as an artist, not as a journalist, not really as a documentary filmmaker. And this makes things very different. He'll talk more about this later, I hope, about the role that art can play in the world. He actually believes that if more artists would go to work in war zones, there would be fewer wars. There's Anthology Film Archive is doing a little George Gittoes Film Festival for the next 3 nights, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, where you can see 7 of George's films, including The Miscreants of Taliwood and Love City, and also Bullets of the Poets from Nicaragua, Rampage from Miami, Talk Show, and The Taylor Story. There are flyers about the schedule at Anthology here. So maybe, George, you want to say anything about, before we show some of Miscreants? Please welcome George Gittoes.
Well, thank you very much. I've still got Jalalabad in my hair, so it's wonderful to be in New York. I've got the dust of that place in my heart and my soul. I'm living in Jalalabad these days, and it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to bring these films here. I'm not going to say much at this point, but what we're going to do is show you 2 segments from Miscreants of Taliwood, and then you're going to be the first people to see the a bit of a cut of Love City. And I've been in Afghanistan and Pakistan for the last 18 months or more, and going back directly after New York. I'll be there until the end of April next year, and there's a lot that I'd like to show you, but I can't and shouldn't, because I'm still working in the area. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you have a few laughs. Thank you. In this market, I'm able to buy a DVD player for just $15 US. They're all smuggled. This is why poor people in this region can all watch telemovies. That's why there's an industry. This is the cheapest form of entertainment.
They don't like the local videos because they say that they make the people corrupt, morally corrupt, because they are vulgar. They are vulgar. So that's
vulgar about them.
Taliban think that this is not Islamic. I think this is not un-Islamic or say this is just entertainment. A big fat lady with a big boobs and this much big fat. When she shakes around, this gentleman who is watching it, they get excited, they get crazy. See these two videos? These are nice, beautiful blonde girls. Nobody is interested in them. Why? Because they are interested in the local girls. The local, he wants to see the local stuff. He wants to see the local breasts. He wants to see this local stomachs of her. That make them very excited. They even look like this to see her something. And if you ask me, I also like this big shaking and this big boobs, and I also get excited and I sweat. Believe me, I sweat.
For the past 5 years, the Northwest Frontier has been governed by zealots like Maulana Hukani. He's led the campaign to stamp out film and music. This is very sad. 70 shops destroyed. Everywhere you walk, there are stunned shopkeepers. The people who do the bombing say that people who sell CDs, actors, musicians, they've all got to go. People who listen to music on cell phones, people who sell phones, people who have access to the internet, people who sell films to escape into the fantasy world of Shrek. The people who do the bombing say if they don't close their stores, they'll be bombed like this.
They claim that creativity is only for God, that nobody else should create human images in whatsoever shape or in whatsoever form they could be. They believe making bombs is good, it's serving Islam, but making movies is against Islam.
They're against videos and CDs and cable television and singing and dancing and music and all the rest of it. They're applying a selective form of technology. They use loudspeakers, they use television, they use cell phones for plotting and conspiring. They want bombs, which are all modern technology. They use Kalashnikovs and all sorts of destructive technology. For them, that's fine.
जदीद साइंस और टेक्नोलॉजी पर तालीम की अखलाकियात शरीक नहीं और दा सीधे दा यो बद असर जमुंग पर माशरा चे
क्योंकि मंगल दगा कसानो तेमरानो को कारोबार खत्म जोर दाडू जरूरत नहीं.
The newspapers call the people who did it miscreants, and the people who did it call the people who sell videos and try to enter the modern world miscreants.
They say you are a human being living in an ordered society where you are supposed to be conscious all the time. Anything that can divert you or distract you from the pure path, from the divine path, so they are miscreants.
So I'm a miscreant, I'm a foreigner. It's a very dangerous place. This is like turning back the clock to Nazi Germany, but it's Muslims destroying Muslims, and everywhere you see shopkeepers in a state of shock who've had everything they own blown away by these miscreants. Good to see you. Yeah, I love it here. Can I get my room? Yes. That room is the weirdest room on earth, I can tell you. Yeah, this room's incredible. It's sort of the SS Club, and it's like we're in Hitler's Nazi Bavaria. You'd expect to find a fireplace like this in Pakistan. It's the room where anything can happen. So, Shahid, I've just been in Mingora where they've been bombing these DVD stores.
I know him.
Yeah?
He's a Tariq Jamal.
I want to meet him if I can. I mean,
Yeah, he's my class fellow.
Your class
Yeah,
fellow.
he's my classmate.
I come to your hotel and you're my
Yeah,
talent
definitely.
scout.
If you wish to meet them, I can call them very easily.
And what about the girls? They're...
The girls, for what you need the girls for some
Well, I
filming?
want to talk to them
Yeah,
about
so we
how
can hire
hard-
them.
This
I will
is
call
what
them
my
and-
movie's going to be about. You know, my movies are about war, but they're also about culture. And this is incredible. These guys are going out there with women, they're dancing in the landscape, and the Taliban hate them. So they're pretty brave artists. You know?
Yes.
And they're here in Peshawar.
They're here in Peshawar. All they are in Peshawar. Peshawar is like a Hollywood.
I tell you, the local CD business is a very, very big industry.
Okay, roll.
One movie costs you $2,500, $3,000 for a movie. To make. And then you make copies out of it and sell it. It is a running business. And if it is destroyed, what will all these people do? The people who are producing it will lose their money. The actor, the actresses, all these creative people will lose their jobs. All the artists will lose their jobs. All the musicians will lose the job. They are all creative people. Then in the future, how can great movies or good movies, our cultural movie will come out? You can say the culture, it will come to stand still. And above all, the people will lose entertainment.
This is a dangerous and violent society. Families have been fighting families, clans against clans, and now it's religious groups against lesser religious groups and modernist groups, but it's still the same violence. And that's what these movies are about. They're about the intricate conflicts, the rules of hospitality, and also of vendetta, the depth of the hatred between people, and how easily it's triggered and how it can last for centuries. After 9 years in exile, away from her beloved Pakistan, Benazir Bhutto turned up in Peshawar. Her courage inspired people to stand up against the militants. Quick, Wakar, get this person.
Excuse me, چې دا کوم موجوده حکومت دی د 8 سال حکومت یو کو بس پکا چې د اقتدار نه پایا کې لرشي او مستقل د کوم الیکشنو کې چې چا حق چای خپل شی په والا کې تاسو ډیر مننه تاسو ډیر مننه السلام علیکم.
That looked good, Wakar.
Yeah.
I don't know what he was saying, but it looked pretty serious. Where are you taking me?
Oh, you have been kidnapped.
I've got kidnapped, yeah. I thought you were supposed to protect me from being kidnapped. I'd adjusted to the thought that every day in Peshawar would be like playing Russian roulette, and constantly the image of Daniel Pearl being kidnapped and brutally beheaded ran through my mind.
My name is Daniel Pearl. I'm a Jewish American. Americans anywhere in the world now can't be secure. We can't walk around free.
Then suddenly, out of the blue, local TV contacts me, someone who's never acted before, to play a journalist who gets kidnapped.
Allah is with us. Believe on him.
Please, God, help us. So here I am, hamming it up, and it feels like I've entered the twilight zone, that I'm inside my worst nightmare. And yet I'm doing it because I'm making a documentary about this very industry. And this is my way of getting inside it. Javed Muzazai is the biggest action star of Pashtun movies. I don't know you, but I've seen all your movies. They're fantastic. So what would it cost to make one of these movies properly?
$4,000.
$4,000? A 2-hour feature film for $4,000?
Yes. Location, arrangement, the building, the guns.
So what...
this experience Miloshi Sogda se sun jode drama ma bakal sun drama jode hi hote hain videos ka
Yes, yes.
Sama
yo dost hai drama jode.
Mr. Tariq, he is making a telemovie.
I've made 5 movies in 6 years.
Won't it be dangerous for them having me on the set?
If you are a foreigner, they think he's American. So they don't ask from anyone. They just show our passport, you are Australian, and then they don't know. They will just consider you are American and they will just shoot you.
او زه دا غواړم چې دا جورج سیب په هغه ډرامه کې ما سره یو کردار دی زما د رول عادي وکړي.
Okay, so he wished that you work with him as an actor.
Yeah, what sort of role would I have to play? What just a small role?
Nini, the big role is my big brothers.
It's not that much.
Do you think we look alike?
Your hair and my hair.
It's the same.
Your eyes and my
Yeah,
eyes.
you've got green eyes, haven't you? Yeah. Amazing eyes. Tariq's new film is called Family, and it's a plea to Pashtuns not to self-destruct. So here I was in the set of a Tariq Jamal movie, completely out of my element, but as happy to be there as a kid who just joined the circus. Death in the afternoon.
Show. That was too realistic, was it?
It's a bigger risk for Rima than any of the men to be in these movies because this whole society is geared to stop a woman from doing anything. So there's a very brave woman. I've been terrified to ask her, but I finally lost my fear, my inhibition. I'm not shy anymore, and I'm going to get a portrait of Rima.
زما شوق چې زه به ډرامه کې کار کوم لا فلم کې به کار کوم خو زمونږ خاندان نه منل زمونږ خاندانو میاګانو لکه دلته ورته دغه ویلي شي بزرګان ته ویلي شي که نه میاګانو نو هغوی نه منله خو زما ډېر زیات خوښ شو چې یاره زه به ډرامو کې ضرور کار کوم.
Singing and dancing publicly are frowned upon, considered immoral. Women have always seen to be subservient, somebody who's there to serve, to obey. A good woman is defined as somebody who's an obedient wife and an obedient daughter. So the thought of women controlling anything is very threatening. And so it's a political threat because PPP is headed by a female, Benazir Bhutto. So somebody who challenges whatever men say would be seen as a miscreant.
If you're my opponent, well, the easy thing for me is to rationalize your killing. I would label you as a miscreant.
Just being a woman out in public is enough to get you shot dead.
With so many onlookers, there could be Taliban.
Well, the crowd is disturbing me.
and let's see.
Under pressure to finish the shoot, Tariq decides to move us all further up into the mountains.
I got permission from Ministry of Interior, and then from their police headquarters, and then local police station. It is it is here. But definitely, locally, we have some Taliban.
But none of these places feel safe for Rima and the crew.
Okay, okay, play. Okay, stop. This says go back and stop your cameras, otherwise I will shoot you. So what can I do? That's a pareshan. Chalo ji, pick up.
Why not? Why not? No. Why not? Why not? Why not?
No, no, no.
No, why not?
Welcome, Mr. George. Welcome.
I wanted to come here for so long. It's so beautiful, so old, so old. With the shutdown of Tariq Jamal's movie, the local Pashtun film industry is finished. I'm worried for Javed. And how many of these kids are yours?
This is my family.
This is all your family?
Yeah.
All of these blogs?
Yes.
Too? All these children live in your house?
Yes.
All of these people were dependent on your film work, is that right?
Yes. बड़ी मुश्किल से ढेर मुश्किल से मतलब है कि खपल अगशे तेरीगी या वक्त तेरीगी और दा गोरी दा माशुमान मतलब दर है कि सातलम सवारी करना.
And there's no industry anymore?
Industry is finished.
It's good to see you. You're looking like you haven't been getting any sleep. How many people live in this house?
7 brothers.
Yeah.
Brother wives.
Yeah.
Mothers, sister, fathers, and child.
And so you've got enough children here for your own school? Thanks, Javed. Whoa.
Mr. George is my best friend and big brother. He acting is a very good. His performance is very good. No. Why not?
You're good.
Thank you.
I'm an amateur. You're a true actor. In life, how many friendships can you really develop? Javed's a very important friendship to me. We were thrust together in Tariq Jamal's movie and we were cast as brothers. We were the bad guys. But it was an instant rapport between us. We're just brothers in art. I was shown, how to use an AK-47. Pakistan at the moment is a place where the artists are being attacked. Like, one of the first things Hitler did was have an exhibition of the degenerate artists.
These are banished, relegated to special exhibits of degenerate art.
But for true artists, it's not a luxury, it's something that they have to do. It's like breathing. Javed has to act. This is why he came onto this planet. But I don't know any period in time when anyone's ever stood up for artists. When are people going to start standing up for artists? You're clapping, are you? Yeah, that's it. So when are people going to start standing up for artists? When we started this film, George Bush and President Musharraf were being blamed for everything bad that was going on.
What? I have another plan for them.
By the end, they'd become small, irrelevant players
They wanted to be kings.
in a much more complex plot.
Let them be kings of the chicken coop.
2, 3, 4.
دې کې ضرور د دغه نوکرانو لاس دی په دې کې ورسره د دې جنکو لاس هم شته نه بیا ودرېږه
Oh my God. Oh God, look at this. There's servants. Yesterday, this was a functioning DVD, CD store. Unfortunately, the guy that was guarding the store was shot, as well as the store being blown up, and he died.
This is your picture.
That's right, that's me.
حکومت حکومت ونی شته دی اونه حکومت طالبان غم کوي یا حکومت ته یا سوق دي څنګه څه پتا را
It's all been blown up though, it's finished. Next, the Taliban kidnapped Javed. They threatened to cut off his hands and feet, then his head. Finally, his brothers got him released.
All the time at home. No money, no food.
What happened is really very sad. Just 1 minute. We have closed down my shop. We have been threatened to close down this shop, and I don't know what the future will be and what kind of business I'll start. We are afraid. We cannot carry out this business. You never know from where this bomb comes and it kills you and the rest of the shops. Innocent people have been killed, so many.
All the actual movie and music stores here have been wiped out just in the last couple of months. But the stores selling propaganda DVDs for Taliban and Al-Qaeda are flourishing. They're everywhere here. The local entertainment industry has been replaced by propaganda films made by the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. But in the pile of discs the kids sold me, there was some so dark, so horrific, I wish they'd never come into my possession.
The people who basically look for audience and want to have audience would hate that another person who had that power to gather the people. The musician has the power to attract people. So, of course, this religious person who would give sermon in the mosque or use the loudspeaker, he wouldn't like this person to be a competitor there because he has the same power. He would hate the dancing girls because she had that power to attract people. He would hate the circus people, the magicians, because they had power. Even the Taliban wouldn't allow the football player to play football because they had a power to attract people. But instead, when everything was closed, early in the morning, 10 o'clock, everybody knows what is going to happen in the stadium. And you'll be surprised at what is going on in the ground. The football? No. Basketball? No. A man has to be shot. So the people are coming in and all the rows are filled now. The person is brought there, tied in rope, and there comes one person. He loaded the gun and blow that person head, and the game finished. And everybody got up the seats and went home. Now there are so many different groups. Every group wants that they should have more audience. So in order to have more audience, this is natural. You have to do something different. I mean, if you're doing the same thing in the circus and the other circus party is doing the same thing, so at least you should have some edge over them, and for that you'll have to do something different. And for that impact, okay, killing doesn't attract people anymore because their eyes got used to it. They killed here, and there are tens of lying dead bodies here. This has become a sort of common scene. People lose interest in that. Now, okay, let's do it in a different way. And what is the different way? That is, okay, give a knife to a 10 or 12 years old boy and let him cut the throat of the person lying there.
دا ساعة تعلم دا چچوک بیا پدانا منا کوي دغی دانا منا انجام
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر
The main reason is to get the maximum audience, to leave the harder and the sharper impact there. And I think, I don't know what next. If people get used to this cutting and slaughtering people, I don't know what else they are going to do after that.
A mosque has been bombed.
This is where it is down here.
By attacking the Shia mosque in the holy month of Muharram, Al-Qaeda and Taliban caused religious unrest and destabilised Pakistan. The young suicide bomber that did this was apparently a teenager. Whoever sent them was sending them supposedly in the name of Islam and God. And there couldn't be anything less like God's will than what's happening here. Oh, sorry. Very sad. God bless you. I'm just, it's hard for me to talk
I've just been with a man who's lost 3 of his relatives.
I like the BBC news.
Thank you.
Yes.
God bless you.
Very nice.
Thank you.
News, BBC.
Thank you. It's extremely emotional here. The air is full of, like, not just smoke, but spirits. When something like this happens, it opens a door to another reality.
I see the government up. I want to beat this government. There is the election. Where is election?
We need the...
Now election is now. मेरे सामने पाकिस्तान बना है. हमने टीयर गैस खाए हैं. हमें क्या मिला है? गोलियां मिल रही हैं, बम मिल रहे हैं. ये हमारा मुल्क है. हमने मुल्क में कुर्बानी दी है. इस कुर्बानियों का ये सिला है कि हमें बम और धमाकों से मुल्क को आवाम को उड़ाया जाए. ये क्या हो रहा है? ये कैसा निजाम है?
This blood. This blood. There. This blood. This blood. Blood. Shoes. Guys. Ladies. Shoes.
نو هر هغه شی چې د ښه مقاصدو دپاره د هغې استعمال کیږي دا حلال وي او خرابو مقاصدو دپاره چې کوم شی کیږي نو هغه حرام وي نو که خودکش حمله د آزادۍ د ظلم نه د آزادۍ دپاره وي د جبر او د استبداد نه د خلاصي دپاره وي نو دې ته خو څوک ناجایزه نه شي ویلی
Every day, the Taliban insurgency grows stronger as it moves in on the seat of power in Islamabad. I think back to the Red Mosque, where I started this journey 2 years ago. The Rangers invited me to a tea party while people were dying only a block away. In a room behind us, commandos were dressing up to look like Mujahideen. They had a plan to trick the people inside the mosque into thinking that they were friends. It was a theatre of terror, and I had a front row seat. The plan worked, and the commandos had their prize captives. Since they were children, these Al-Qaeda and Taliban had been trained for martyrdom. Only treachery could bring them in. Soon they'd be handed over to interrogators. They all knew what to expect. They'd seen what had been done to their comrades at Abu Ghraib and Guantanamo Bay. The humiliation began immediately. Stripped, hobbled together, eyes covered, unsure of where they were stepping. I imagined their fears and realised the two-sided nature of the cruelty of this conflict. The Taliban have been able to stop Javed from acting, but they can't stop him from trying to get the new film out on the streets to feed his family.
I'm fine. Look
new poster? Yeah, this is the new poster. It's very beautiful and the performance is very good. And look at this.
I'm getting some cheers up there.
Yeah.
Hey! Look up there, Wakar. Look up there. We got it. Jabir, you couldn't get a better reaction than this. Look at this. Hey! Up there, Wakar. You couldn't get a better reaction to a poster than that. We brought out nearly everyone in the printing district. Everyone wants the movies. Just look around here. People are dying to see our movie. This is incredible. If we look around here, you know, I mean, there's guys there with big beards and mullahs hats and everything else, and they're cheering us that we've got this new movie out. The last one, 40,000 copies were sold. This time we might sell 1 million copies, Javier.
40,000 copies.
You think so? Maybe more. I'm ambitious. This is it. This is great.
Yeah. People is really enjoy it.
But as I leave Pakistan, my most unsettling memory is this image of the blindfolded leading the blindfolded. Because it's not just about Pakistan. It's about a world where no one really knows who's leading us into war, why we're going there, or if anyone has any vision of why we're doing it. After making Miscreants of Taliwood, everyone loved the documentary and they wanted to see the dramas, but the 2 dramas I made were terrible, absolutely terrible. You wouldn't want to see them. And so I went back and I made 2 more dramas and really tried hard in Pakistan. And the whole time I was there, I was getting reports that things were much worse in Jalalabad, which is in Afghanistan, that although they were really, really bad in Pakistan, they were much worse in Jalalabad. And the filmmakers there pleaded with me to go back and to go to Jalalabad and help them. And I got in a bit of difficulty doing the 2 dramas in Pakistan. I didn't realise it, but I was filming just above the house where Bin Laden was, and I think that they thought I was the CIA or something. You know, you could get into his backyard with my big lens. It's a backwards-forwards thing. Making Miscreants of Taliwood and those dramas, I was terribly happy that none of my people were hurt, and as the films were successful, there was no retaliation against them. But only recently, a truck bomb was driven into that little film district where you saw me buy my own movie, and it exploded and destroyed an area as big as 2 sports fields and killed just about everyone, including the designer who designed my CD covers and posters and one of the editors and most of the producers. Fortunately, Ishfaq, the lovely little dancing guy, wasn't there that day. And so I just want to show you a preview of the film I'm making. Now, these films take a lot of time, they're hard to make. I made the 2 dramas in Pakistan, then I made 3 more dramas in Jalalabad. When I arrived in Kabul, lots of well-meaning, I don't know who they are, spooky types came up to me and said, "George, you can't go to Jalalabad. You'll be killed in the first week, you'll be kidnapped, we don't want the responsibility," etc. And I've just been living there. I'm going back there now, and I can now walk down to the market and buy my groceries without anyone with me. And, you know, the Taliban have allowed me to go out and film the Afghan Taliban. I haven't had to pay them anything. And as you'll see in this movie, I even get a bit of cooperation from them. What you're about to see is the first people in the world to see it, is the first 20 minutes of the new movie called Love City. And hopefully I'll be able to show you the film when it's finished. It'll be very different to this. This is the kind of thing a guy like me's got to do to get a bit of money. And so I went to Norway, and the Norwegian producer said, "George, you're probably the kind of person who'd find Monty Python funny." And that was a big worry. So the first cut I did was terribly, terribly funny. He said, "No, you won't get it past Norwegian funding bodies like that. Make it look really, really dangerous and take out all the humour." And I was pretty disillusioned with that, but I did it.
And then when I took it to the funding body, they still found it pretty funny. It seemed that I'm a natural clown, that I just can't help myself. And yet they said, George, it could be funnier than this. And thank God the producer was taking notes. And then they said, why did you have to make it look so dangerous? It's obvious that it's dangerous, you know, just be yourself. So there's a lot of narration and stuff in there that was there, but we got the money. We got 2.5 million kronen, which is about $500,000, which is what I need to finish the documentary and make 2 more dramas. And up to that point, I'd spent mainly my own money, and at the moment I'm as broke as could be. So it was worth doing it. So you're seeing a bit of a, you know, a promotional movie, but I still think you'll see it's funny, and you'll have an insight into the ongoing story. And as I said, I'm going back to make 2 more films.
Masha.
You ready, Amisha?
Yes.
Love City. We're about to rename Jalalabad. That's its true name. Love City.
Love City. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there's just too little of. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone.
This is Jalalabad, and I'm here with the help of my friends to make it the show business capital of Afghanistan.
There is no business like show business, like no business I know. Everything is from the healing. Everything that traffic will allow. Will allow.
Jalalabad is where bin Laden is supposed to have planned 9/11. As a result, there's a huge US base here, with all the comforts of home. But no one goes outside unless they're in a fully armoured vehicle, viewing the people of Jalalabad through super thick, bulletproof glass. So that's what they got. That's what they got to get around in. This is our little vehicle. I think people appreciate it more when we turn up in ours than in those big killing machines. Trillions and trillions of dollars have been wasted here in a military campaign that has only brought more war. I've come to help a group of artists who want to give love a chance and plan to make 3 dramas based on the best love stories. My last documentary, Miscreants of Taliwood, showed how the Taliban and other fundamentalists were trying to wipe out the local Pashto film industry by bombing video stores, then replacing entertainment drama with their own grotesque snuff movies. When they started coming into the sets with guns, it created dramatic footage for my documentary, but production stopped. In order not to let these killjoys win completely, I had to fund 2 dramas and even did a bit of acting. I only discovered my comic talent by accident, so never expected to be on a panel at the Telluride Film Festival discussing comedy with Nicolas Cage.
Well, let me tell you something. On the set of Bad Lieutenant, Werner walked over to me and he said, "Now you just relax." and I was like, "Oh, what are you talking about, Werner? I am relaxed. What is this? Is this because the camera's on, Werner? Is that what this is?" And I almost went nuts. So I walked off the set.
You know, like we were confronting the Taliban, these dour people that hate men and women getting together. They hate film, they hate music, they hate anything creative. And so this was just a great way of slapping them in the face. We were sending them up, you know. The big mistake I made when I went up to the mountains where Bin Laden was I took all these action heroes. I had the equivalent of Sylvester Stallone and Chuck Norris, you know, I had Javed, these great action heroes, and I thought we were going to have a lot of confrontation with the Taliban, but they scared them off. The Taliban didn't want to take us on.
Did you tell the Taliban to relax?
Well, that's it, yeah, we did, you know. We should have told them to relax more, I think.
Well, anyway, I just think what you did is amazing. You're so brave, and next time you do something like that, please take me with you.
Flattered by Nicolas Cage's compliments, I'm back on a night flight to Afghanistan. And I'm wondering if I should try to make him come good on his offer. Events had fast-tracked me into making my next film, which I plan to call Scarface in Kabul. With Afghanistan producing 90% of the world's heroin, it should not be difficult to find a Scarface. My gut instinct is that I'll find him running one of the lavish wedding halls that at night make Kabul look like Vegas. The biggest is Star City. The boss and supposed owner of Star City is Mawla, and he agreed to see me. Mawla has a scar on his face that looks like a bullet wound, and was commander in the Northern Alliance under Massoud. The challenge is to get Mawla to like and trust me enough to let us inside his operation. In my whole life I've never seen a fountain as beautiful as this, and I want to know a bit about it. So was this your idea, the fountain?
Yes.
And what's this incredible thing over here?
یک چیز بسیار جالب براتون نشان بدم ما که گفتیم که از اونجا هستم.
This is one of the most amazing things
within this hotel. That everyone's been telling me about. We've just walked up to something so amazingly theatrical, I have to do something with it. I can see two young actors playing a bride and groom in a dangerous story of forbidden love.
این یک جایی است که ستایی سر امی عروس داماد میایم و در زیر لایتینگ است ما گل تازه برش فرش کردیم گل تازه که سر گل تازه عروس داماد بیاین.
If that was a piece of installation art in a modern museum, they think that was great modern art. That's just so beautiful. Mawla's designed all this in his head while he was still a soldier fighting the Russians and then the Taliban. It seems he isn't a gangster, but an artist like me.
این در مستر سالنگ از تونل که داری با دسر بسیار بلند است اونجا که بری به نام یک حوض است حوض خاص به همین شکل است.
I'm a painter and I've got to tell you I've done a painting called the Salang Tunnel. I've done a painting of the Salang Tunnel. Here's two artists together.
میگم من یک نقاش هستم میگم من تونل سالنگ نقاشی کردم یک میگم من نشان دادم بود در یادم
I love that mountain so much I did a painting of it. Touched by my sincerity, Mawla decided to drive me to Salang and tell the story behind the art. Despite Mawla's hospitality, there's something dark, something hidden. It makes me feel like I'm trespassing in a minefield. What I love about this is style. How is this for style? You know, out trudging through the snow, and look at the suits. Look at these great suits. You know, these guys wouldn't be seen in uniform anymore. They had to come up in their wedding suits, and they look great. Look at this, Mr. Style. Are these guys gangsters or not? Gangsters or not? That's what's spinning around in my head. But my gut instinct still says Scarface. So this is great. It's like a medieval city. I love this place. It's just so beautiful, so very beautiful. It's like going back in a time machine to me. We're at the Central Market to do a simple scene where 4 actresses wearing burqas enter a shop to choose a wedding dress. Filming with girls makes us prime targets, so we have to get out of here before anyone tells the Taliban. The crowd's getting agitated because they've realised we're filming women.
Too dangerous. Too dangerous.
Too dangerous.
It's, I think, maybe, because the people is allowed. The girls go back now.
Yeah.
Now. This
It's
minute.
okay.
Follow them down with the cameras.
Yeah.
And the girls go now.
Yeah, it's okay.
To get back to the vehicle, we'll have to run a gauntlet. There are people who are just curious, but amongst this crowd there are also people who'd like to see us killed.
Action!
It hasn't dawned on Emir Shah to stop filming and just get to the vehicle. Men have begun spitting on us from the top balconies. And they're yelling whores, prostitutes and worse obscenities.
Can we go now?
The girls have been punched and groped, but we've made it to street level. We've made it to the car, but men and boys are coming from everywhere to peep at the girls. It's like they want them to strip or something. Like they've never seen a woman before. A blast would kill all the people surrounding us, and that'd be seen as a victory. There are only 3 girls in the bus, not 4. Somehow Sidra's been separated from us in the chaos.
Another girl.
Yeah, Sidra.
There's not a lot of time.
But he's coming just a few minutes.
Okay, but a few minutes could be like, you know, we've got to go. Just get her to wait and we'll send someone, or put her in a taxi, Okay. You take her in a taxi, okay?
A taxi's been parked in front of our vehicle, and the driver, who knows our predicament, is refusing to move it. Emir Shah needs to convince the driver to move before our bus becomes a death trap. This guy's not our friend. The only reason he could be doing this is to create time for a suicide bomber to be found. We can't go forward, and now they're not letting us reverse, so we're going to have to try and turn the vehicle and edge our way back through the wall of people. Everything's moving too slowly. It really feels like we're in the last minutes of our lives, and I'm responsible for putting everyone into this situation. All this because we're allowing women to perform in front of our cameras. People tell us we're mad trying to film here. The whole area is controlled by the Taliban. They're watching us anyway, so I've offered to pay them to play themselves. As a precaution, I'm getting them to hide their real guns and use plastic props.
This is the perfect place for the Taliban to intercept the girls, I think. Amazing.
Yeah.
To save his skin and trick the Taliban, our lead actor has to change into a woman. When the Taliban becomes suspicious, he's saved by the beautiful old Quran that he's holding. We've had the usual surveillance helicopters, but now a predator is acting like it thinks we're Taliban. It's circling us and it's lowered its weapons. Somewhere, a trigger-happy computer nerd is looking at his screen, ready to turn us into statistics. We keep shooting. We never get anything done if we stopped every time this happens. But the fear is the Taliban presence has turned us into real targets. We're all holding our breath and praying. It seems that the guy holding the joystick half a world away is alert. We're not going to die. With all the shooting now completed in Jalalabad, we were just happy to be alive. We defeated the bad odds and all the negative predictions.
There's no business like show business, like no business I know. Everything done for big is what Let's go on with the
What people who've never lived through a war can't understand, you laugh and sing and try to enjoy every minute because you know in the next one you could die. In front of us, an oil tanker has been hit by a couple of Taliban rockets. We could be next. Up ahead there's a bridge where I want to film our fictional lovers having their first meeting. But we'll have to do it quickly. If we bring attention to ourselves by drawing a crowd, the Taliban will almost certainly investigate. If it goes smoothly, we'll get the scene and be out of here.
ستا دا ښایسته سترګې به ما ټول عمر دپاره بندیوان کي او ستا نه بغیر به زه بل چا سره مینه ونه کړم
زړه مې غواړي چې دا شېبه ټول عمر تېره نه شي
ته رښتیا وایې زه باور نشم کولی دا هر څه داسې ښکاري لکه چې یو خوب وینم
ښه زه به اوس لاړه شم که چا ولیدو نه ښه به نه شي
دا خو واخله
There's something wrong with Mausama. Madru's signalling me, but I'm too far away to help. Every minute that crowd's going to get bigger and bigger.
Look at the crowd down there, will you? It's amazing.
This is not what I wanted. I must have been mad to try this. We've just got to get Mausama up into the vehicle and out of here fast. By now the Taliban have to know we're here. I'm told Mausama has a condition that causes her to faint like this. It's not unusual, so if we can get her to Kabul and a night's rest, she'll be all right. Up ahead, all traffic's been stopped. The Taliban have attacked more oil tankers. I feel sorry for the tanker drivers, but thank God they were busy with them and not us. It's dark by the time we pass these ghostly wrecks. Star City will seem like paradise if we ever reach there. So that's pretty rough, but it just gives you an insight into where the new film's going. And the final thing won't be anything like that, and of course there's no sound mix or anything, but you can see it's an ongoing story. David wants to, we're going to talk with each other, but just wanted to open it up to a few questions. So while we're waiting for the other microphone, who's game enough to do the first question? No, it's not just documenting what happens, but what happens is always better than what I hope might happen. The way I do it is I shoot for a long while, and I've got a rough idea of what I want to get, and then I go back and edit it for a time, and when I've edited it, then I know exactly what I want to get when I go back. But once again, it's never going to be the way we think it's going to be. So when I go back, for example, you don't see her much in this movie, in this, but Neha, who's one of the actresses, asks on camera if she can learn to use a camera. Then she asks, can she learn to edit? And finally she's asked me, can she direct a film? So Neha's directing one of the films when I get back. And obviously seeing what happens when a woman is directing these guys. They've never had a woman ask them to do anything before. It's going to be very interesting. And then we'll see Neha's film released in Kabul. So the plan is we've made 5 movies, we're going to make 2 more, and then we're going to have a big release in Kabul, and we'll be able to rightly say that we've won and we've rebirthed the Afghan film industry. It's happening again out of Jalalabad. And I can't tell you much about this, but there's a lot of negative forces that are trying to stop us from finishing, and they'll still be trying to stop us, and we're going to invite them along to the screenings when it's finished. And there's political aspects of this film which are not in there yet, because there's always a dilemma of killing the goose that laid the golden egg, in the sense that if I reveal too much now, I may not be able to finish. So it's always difficult showing something like this in progress in such a dangerous environment as Afghanistan. Well, this is what really needs to be explained that's not explained in the media, in that there's all sorts of different kinds of Taliban. And the ones that seem to be blowing up the video stores all seem to come from Pakistan. They're the Pakistani Taliban, and the networks that are doing most of like the people who killed Rabbani, the former president of Afghanistan, are from the Haqqani network in Pakistan, and they're really hired guns. And so they're one kind of Taliban. They're not really Taliban, they're a kind of gun for hire. They're the ones that recently took the American embassy hostage in Kabul. And then there are fundamentalists that have, they've got madrasas and they really want to come down against women and film and everything else. They're all in Pakistan as well. And they're fighting with the local Taliban. And most of the Afghan Taliban, like around Jalalabad, where I am, talk to me a lot. And, people say, oh, well, you talk to American mercenaries who are acting to take people through that country, NGOs and so on, and they say they pay the Taliban to get access, and they make out that the Taliban in Afghanistan are mercenaries, that they'll only do things for money. But the Taliban have never asked me for money when I've gone out to film. And in fact, you see in my movie where I decide they're standing around anyway, so I might as well get them to be extras. And I paid them a few bucks for doing that, and they loved it. They had a great day. In fact, it was funny, later that day we'd gotten rid of them. We were filming in a graveyard, and my actresses were waiting in the van, and suddenly they screamed, and I ran over, and they're the fiercest looking Taliban you've ever seen. They had rocket launchers and guns and everything else. And then I looked again, I said to the girls, no, these are our Taliban, and they're the guys from the morning, but they've been off fighting the Americans and decided to come back and have a bit more fun watching us. So it's very, very complicated. And one of the most interesting things that's happening for me in Jalalabad is my favourite person in Jalalabad, like Ishfaq, the video store owner, was my happy bank manager. And he was also an actor, and he was prepared to let me take out $5,000 amounts off my credit card to pay for the films, which is a pretty rare thing to do because American dollars are rare in Jalalabad. Anyway, one morning I went to the bank, and not long after, a bunch of Taliban came in and murdered him and all the other people in the bank, and they did it in a terrible way, like the decapitation scene you see in the other film, and it was all captured on CTV, on remote cameras. So now the whole population of Jalalabad is turned against the Pakistani Taliban, and yet there are Taliban there. And one of the last things that I did before I left Jalalabad to come here, I had a meeting with like the Jalalabad equivalent of the Chamber of Commerce, and there are Taliban amongst them. And I said, look, I think on Christmas Day we should have a day of prayer for peace. And they loved that idea. And they loved the idea of letting the world see that they respect a Christian day of peace and that they really want peace and that they're going to pray along with us to the same God. And that was very interesting. Some of the most radical mullahs in Jalalabad loved that idea. That was a big concession to do it on a Christian holiday. So it's not as stereotypical as you think, and it's very, very complicated. The thing that worries me is that people are in the government, the American government and NATO and so on, are talking to what's called the Taliban, and they were talking to the Haqqani network, who are very dangerous people. But they're not talking to the young people. And the kind of young people that you see in my movies, they all want the equivalent of a Jasmine revolution, the Arab Spring. They want to bring peace and joy to Afghanistan. And no one's talking to them. And so the only outlet they've got is by working with someone like me with the films and creativity. And they say the reason why we can't have an Arab Spring in Afghanistan is because we've got a large occupying force. And it just astonishes me that no one wants to talk to the youth of the country. And it's got the largest youth population in the world, and the youth of the country don't want any more war. And yet they're only, they're only talking to the corrupt people who are already in power or the Taliban. It's very odd.
Laughed and then cried within the span of just maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and I don't think that's ever happened to me before. And I was wondering if you're deliberately using humor as a strategy to keep people sensitized, maybe? Because I think if there was just sustained several hours of horror, that I think maybe sensitivity to that sort of thing would be diminished, as was sort of addressed in your film, the way that execution has become entertainment.
Yeah, well, that's right.
So I was just wondering if you have thought of it that way, or if the use of humor is really just a representation of the ethos that was described as being, in a place that's so dangerous that you're really just looking for joy whenever possible.
No, I'm just a born idiot,
Okay.
I'm just a born clown, and I can't help myself. And as I said, the Norwegian producer told me to take all the humour out of that last cut, and people still find it funny. I'm just sort of stupid. But the thing that I've learnt is that all fascist regimes, whether it's the Nazis, whether it's Stalin or whatever, not only do they come down on art, they come down on humour and joy. It seems that if you can laugh, you can't be controlled. I mean, even soldiers in terrible situations in the trenches in World War I, they had their own black humour. And it's a way of liberating yourself. Once you laugh, you're kind of free of the oppressor, even if you're dead in the next 10 minutes. It's something wonderfully human. So what this new movie particularly is about, it's a rebellion against not only the Taliban but the whole military machine. And the idea that you can bring in huge tanks and planes and robot equipment and so on, and you can change people. You can change people best by making them laugh. And people often wonder why I stay safe, and I think it's because of that I'm always smiling. I'm always laughing, even if someone's got a gun at my head. It's pretty hard to shoot someone who's laughing, I don't know. Well, that's my greatest protection. I don't get it, but it's just, I tried to even take it out of that cut, and I couldn't. And I think as an artist, I've been at war most of my life. We're talking about Rwanda, the Congo, Mozambique, Cambodia, Vietnam, Nicaragua, all these places. And it's sort of... The other thing is that I like to let people know that I'm full of joy. Most people look at me and they say, you were in Rwanda, you saw hundreds of thousands of people slaughtered with machetes. How can you sleep at night? Well, I save babies in Rwanda. My friend Nils is over here. He works for Medicine Sans Frontières. I'm bringing him into it. And he's still smiling. You don't have bad dreams, do you, Nils? No. If you go into one of these places and you try to do good and you don't hurt anyone, you actually come away feeling very fulfilled. And I think it's this sense of inner fulfillment and joy that also protects me, and everyone seems to like that. As I said, I get to have meetings with some of the nastiest Taliban in Jalalabad, and they've observed me over this period, and I get a chance to actually help modify and change their ideas and let them know that we're not such bad people after all, that not everyone's like George Bush, So can we get another question over there? No, I just go completely by myself. And that's the most important thing that I want to say tonight, is that I believe, look, Jalalabad, where I'm shooting this film now, there's like the biggest American base of all. That's where all the predators and things come from. And but they never go outside that base, and your country's been sent almost bankrupt creating that base and other ones like it. And yet I'm just one artist with my skills, the kind of skills that you learn in this art school. And I've gone there, and before I arrived, they hadn't made a film for 18 months. No one had. When I'm not there, I've left my cameras and my editing machines, and they're just having a renaissance of filmmaking. They're making better films than the ones that I've helped them direct. Fantastic films. And so that's the impact of someone from outside coming in with a bit of equipment and a lot of inspiration. And like these new Love City films, they're the first movies to feature women. There are female actresses starring in all of them, and they're very, very strong women. Like in Talk Show, the star's like an Afghan Oprah Winfrey, and she decides to have her own talk show, and then eventually when the corrupt powers in Jalalabad come after her, she goes after them. She fights back. And that's one of the films that we're showing down at Anthology. And so for women in a country where little girls aren't allowed to be educated, the big dilemma for me was, how do I make films that are not full of violence, like the ones that you saw were being made in Pakistan, and films that men will buy, because women are not even allowed to go shopping. They're not allowed to go and select anything. Only men could go into a video store. And then I discovered that in a country where it's more dangerous to fall in love than it is to go to war, because of arranged marriages, if you fall in love with someone, you'll end up killed and the girl will be killed as well. Everyone has their own secret, dangerous love story. Like, if you see this new American film, Water for Elephants, it gets pretty scary at times in that movie. There's not much violence, but the fear of the couple who are falling in love and the ringmaster husband finding them is pretty damn scary. It's more scary than watching Chuck Norris fight 50 Vietnamese or something. And so what I've discovered is these love movies, all the men want to see them, and so they take them home, and the women who are locked inside and can never go out are seeing movies about women who are educated and who are making a difference. So it's kind of like a Trojan horse. were getting in there with the love stories, and so these women are much more likely to decide to send their daughters to school or try and have a future or even stand up to their husband as a result of seeing these films than if you went along with a squadron of soldiers and pointed guns at the men in Jalalabad's head and said, you've got to send your daughters to school. That just makes them want to fight back. But, this is what artists can do. If I had security, I mean, you look at security, Wali Karzai had all the security in the world, and yet one of his bodyguards killed him. Rabbani, the former Prime Minister, was killed by a turban bomb. My feeling is the less security I've got, the safer I am. And one thing in that culture that they really respect is courage, and it fascinates them that there's someone there who's not frightened, who's on their own, who hasn't got any security. I think if I'd had security, I would have gone down, Yeah, they really do respect, and the women are enormously brave, except the women are incredibly repressed. And back in the hidden inside of the house, believe me, the women are women like any women anywhere, and they give the men a lot of curry. And the men are actually, scared of their wives that are locked up with them inside. But there's all these crazy rules about not wanting. But I think, in fact, one of my friends, I loved it. She said that she feels that Afghan women are more evolved than the men. And I've come to believe that. And, it's wonderful for me, for example, to see Nihar having the courage to direct a movie. That's going to be incredible to watch, because none of these men have ever been told to do anything by a woman before. And that'll be good material for the documentary. They're saying they'll do it, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And she's just incredibly brave. I don't think there would have been any resistance fight, against the Nazis in France more brave than Nihar. I mean, you saw the danger she was in that scene we're shooting where the crowd came around the bus. All the women who were in that scene, I asked them, I said, look, is this getting too dangerous? Do you want to go back? Do you want to stop filming? They said, no, it just makes us want to do it more. These women are true, absolute, committed, revolutionary feminists who are prepared to put their life on the line. And as I said, even when I'm not there, because the cameras are there, they're making films. They see film and the arts as a way to change their culture. They're absolutely committed. I'm hoping to get a scholarship for Nihar to come to New York. There's an organisation called ArtLink that might do it. And the more that we can develop these powerful women, the better.
I was just wondering where the actresses are safe. Like, what are their homes? Are they married or living with their parents?
That's very, very complicated. I'm responsible for their safety and everything else when they're with me, and I take a lot more care with them than the other people. When they're normally making films, they are all professional, full-time actresses. There's a funny division between the women. There's the good girls and the bad girls. So half my actresses are prostitutes. When I made the films in Pakistan, I could only get prostitutes. But for these movies, we needed educated women who'd been to university and stuff to play the educated roles. And I nearly thought of calling the film Good Girls Don't Dance, because the deal is that the very good actresses like Nihar, who are educated, said, yes, we'll go in the film. We don't like Pashto films. They're actresses who normally only go in proper dramas or television things, very cultured things. But we won't dance. And the other girls who are the prostitutes do dance. And it's very interesting. When you see them together, and we've got a lot of interaction, the prostitute girls are brilliant. They just haven't had the opportunity for education. And in a debate or anything, they can leave the educated girls for dead. And it's been a very, very interesting exchange. And I'm keeping them together. So what I've really built, and maybe I'll be still in Afghanistan in 20 years' time, I've created an ensemble. And it's been an ensemble like any good ensemble, where every member of the ensemble has used their talents to help the rest. So there's like a cross-pollination of talents. I have to with the prostitutes, I've got to convince their pimps to let them do it and get the pimps to stay behind because the pimps are a bad influence, not to be on set. And with the good girls, it's a matter of they have to have a brother or someone there keeping an eye on them, and I've got to convince their parents it's good for their career. In the case of Neha, New York might help out because Neha's been promised to a terrible man she's never met in another city who's twice her age, is fat and bald and, you know, a monster apparently, according to Neha. And so she was supposed to get married in October last month to this guy, and that would be end of her life, end of her career. He would never let her do anything. So I convinced her mother that it was a big opportunity, her directing her first drama. And then I said, and there's a wonderful thing, I'm giving her a scholarship to go to Norway to help edit it. And so Neha gets, you know, she's got a 6-month reprieve or something, you know, till this time next year with the drama, and the mother's, you know, convinced. And I can be pretty convincing with mothers. And then we're hoping maybe we can get a scholarship to come to New York. So we try to put off the terrible day, and eventually she might be free. But that is a very dangerous thing to do because the guy she's engaged to is a Pashto man, and normally he'd have a right to have her killed for not marrying him, and no one could stop it. So it's a delicate thing, but she'd rather die than marry this guy. So it's a real kind of Romeo, and you know, within the film there's dramas going on more dramatic than the actual dramas. I can manage in Pashto, and the only place where I need the interpreters with Farsi, and I don't speak Farsi. I'm going to try and learn Farsi, but all of my people are Pakhtuns and speak Pashto, and I've been working there for a long, long time. So where you see me having difficulty is with Mala in Star City, because he's a Panchiri, he doesn't speak Pashto. I actually act in some of the films speaking Pashto badly, and I'm going to have to, you know. The funny thing was I'm only in one of the 5 new movies, and I've discovered that Pashtuns love me. They just think I'm an idiot who doesn't speak very well. And none of them think that I'm an outsider. And so it's funny, I'll land in Dubai or something, and Pashtuns will run up who've been working on the oil rigs and ask me for an interview. The 2 really bad movies that I made when I was doing Miscreants are incredibly popular. They're the most popular movies ever. And I'm the super bad guy in it, and they love bad guys. The funny thing with bad guys is, in this sort of movie world, for some reason, you only employ a gangster to play a gangster. You know, you don't get an actor to play a gangster. And so they must think that I'm probably smuggling heroin or something when I'm in Dubai as well, because I'm always playing a bad guy. Anyway.
Wondering, how is it for you after you're in this intense process there and everything, both as an artist and as a person, coming to New York?
Well, you know, I've spent my whole life, in a sense, at war. You know, like in all these strange places, and I've always loved New York. You know, I came to New York first in 1968. Someone was mentioning tonight, Clement Greenberg encouraged me to come here, and I was friends with Leon Gollop. I ended up doing the kind of art which would make Greenberg have a nervous breakdown, but. That's how I came here. So New York is like returning to home. I never have any problem with adjusting. When I had an exhibition in Houston, it was another story. I found it pretty hard being in Houston in Texas. That was a huge jump from Afghanistan, but certainly not New York. I think I live in hyper-reality. I've been sort of without a home and on the road for so long, I've forgotten what it's like to be normal.
I think we probably have to leave, but I wanted to say that one of the things that you don't get from seeing clips like that from the film is the narrative arc of these things, which is really very important. So I would encourage all of you to go see the films in their entirety, and there's a rare opportunity to do that this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Hopefully it won't be the last opportunity. There'll be many more in the future, but this is a good one. And I also wanted to say that I've never known how George does what he does. I still don't. The only way I'm going to know is if I go there with him, and I don't think he wants me to do that.
No, he's welcome to come, you know, but he's going to have to wear a funny little hat and dress up. But believe me, if he does come, I'll protect him. He'll be fine.
But I mean, one thing it always reminded me when I think about what he's able to do is when they asked Picasso to design camouflage uniforms for the airborne troops in the Second World War, he said, dress them as harlequins. And I think that's kind of George's approach. It's what he does is so far over that people can't believe that he's doing it, and it has a strange thing about keeping him safe. And I hope that continues forever. And I really thank you for being here, George.
Thank you, David. The funny thing I can say, and I'm talking about the Harlequin, and this must be true, David's really hit it nail on the head. I discovered my favourite restaurant in Jalalabad was where Jim Carrey lived for quite a while. And he got away with it and they loved him, you know. So maybe you bring circus to town and make a few people laugh, and that is the best camouflage and the best flak jacket that keeps you alive. Thank you.